Hello everybody, it's Kasey Wells here, your independent write-in presidential candidate in 2020. And I want to do a video here tonight in response to the debates last night. What a mess that was, huh? Anyway, I don't want to really get into disparaging either candidate or any candidate for that matter. I just want to present to you a different vision for the future, my 2020 vision. And so the number one thing I'm promoting is technology for direct democracy. Before I get into answering these questions that were presented last night and into the topics that were presented, I want to tell you my number one policy: direct democracy, empowering all of you in the political process. See, this country was founded as a constitutional republic. We have a constitution, we have a set of laws that we're all supposed to abide by, but we're also supposed to be a republic. And a republic, by definition, is a state in which supreme power is held with the people and their elected representatives. You see, supreme power is supposed to be with the people first, and our elected representatives are supposed to represent our interests, not private interests like they are currently doing on almost every level of government. And so I want to utilize technology to get the American people involved in the political process. Furthermore, the Declaration of Independence states that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Therefore, our governments on any level really have no justifiable power without the consent of we the people. But there really isn't a system in place right now for our elected representatives to collect our consent or to collect our input on policy. And that is what I want to change. I want to build a government-based web service that will allow all U.S. citizens to log on, view upcoming government agendas, have the opportunity to give their vote and their input on those agendas, have that input voted up or down. I think the best input would rise to the top, and then that is what we should be structuring public policy around. Because public policy should be driven by public input, and public servants should serve public interests. And so if you'd like to have an opportunity to have your voice heard in the political process, I might be the candidate you're looking for. I can tell you I'm at least in the top 10 as far as ballot access goes for all the candidates that are out this year. It goes, well, you know what the other candidates are, but I can assure you from my research and the work I've done, I'm official candidate in around 36 states, and I have 2 more pending. And so I'll have a total of around, well, right now I'm at 390 electoral college points. I'm hoping to finish up around 449 or so electoral college points when it's all said and done, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's my setup for the beginning of this video. I just want to let you know where I stand on direct democracy. So everything else I'm about to talk about here, please don't get too concerned or feel like you got to reject me if we disagree on some of the points that I'm about to present, because really I want my vote as president to count equally to yours and every other American citizen on any public policy matter that governs us. And so, as president, I might have the opportunity to have a little more influence, to have my voice heard a little more on policy matters. But when direct democracy is in place, and that system comes back to tell me that maybe the American people aren't as interested in some of these other ideas I'm going to be promoting as I hoped or thought they might be, I'll always back off to serve the will of the people, because that's what a good public representative does. They represent the interests of the public, and I can promise you that is what I'm here to do. So, the first question up for debate last night was dealing with the Supreme Court. In the direct democracy system, I would like to empower the American people to have an opportunity to give their vote on who they would want to see as a Supreme Court justice. I'd like there to be a set of candidates that are nominated, and then have a 2-round system where the first round the American public could nominate somebody or vote on different candidates that are nominated. And then the second round would be those candidates, the top 5 candidates that got the most votes in the first round. Well, then the American public would do a ranked choice voting system on those 5 candidates with 1 blank spot that would include a write-in candidate. I think it's always important to have a write-in in there, because I'm a write-in. But anyway, and then the second round would go through the ranked choice voting system to produce the final candidate. I believe the American people should have a say in our Supreme Court justice picks and decisions I'd like to also maybe implement that into some of my cabinet picks as well. But I've stated it several times before that my cabinet will not have a single member of the Council on Foreign Relations, anybody that attends the Trilateral Commission meetings or the Bilderberg Group meetings, or is a part of the Council of Americas or the Council of Councils or America Society or any of those kind of organizations that are heavily led by private philanthropies that dictate public policy for their own personal benefit. I will not have within my cabinet. I can assure you that. So if I did make a ranked choice voting system for some of my cabinet picks, I promise you I will not allow anybody in the nomination category for those cabinet picks to be a member of those organizations, because we need to get away from public interest and private money having such tremendous influence over policy in this country. So the next thing that was up for debate last night was healthcare. They were going back and forth about their policies on healthcare, but my policy would fall more in line with Joe Biden's. I think that I believe in universal healthcare, and I think that should be an option, but it always should be an option. People should be allowed to opt in or opt out into Medicare for all or Medicaid or whatever you call it. But those that can't afford health care should be provided for. They should be helped. We shouldn't just turn people away because they can't afford health care. So if you want to sign up for a public option for health care, I would like to help implement a system that would bring that about. But again, that would come back to direct democracy too. I would promote that. If the American people don't want that, that's fine. But I think no matter what kind of public project we want to implement, public input should always be a part of it, and there should always be a public option. You can opt in or opt out of public programs. The next thing that they talked about was ending the filibuster and packing the court. Again, if we were to put the American people in charge of the public policies in this country, filibusters wouldn't really matter so much. Politicians could get up there and talk all day if they want, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I want to make the system of direct democracy obligate our elected leaders to have to serve our collective interests, or they're kicked out of office. And as far as packing the court goes, of adding extra Supreme Court justices to the Supreme Court, if we want to do that, I'm for it. I'm not against it if that's what the public wants. If we want more than 9 or 10 or 11, however many we want, I would leave that up to public input to guide where that goes. COVID-19, hot topic, difficult one for me to deal with. I can tell you the main thing I have against the government response to COVID-19 relates back to private philanthropies and their control over the government response. I could tell you back in 2010, there was a report put out by the Rockefeller Foundation called, well, you can look up Rockefeller Lockstep. If you remember Rockefeller Lockstep, that can give you an easy shortcut to finding it. But the longer title for the thing they put out was Scenarios of the Future of Technology and International Development. And in that document, on pages 22, 23, it talks about governments taking greater controls over our freedoms in such an event of a pandemic. This came out 10 years prior. I can also tell you, Bill Gates met with David Rockefeller many times to discuss philanthropy, and his philanthropies were modeled after Rockefeller family philanthropies. And these two organizations have, well, the Bill Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation have had tremendous influence over the development of public policy in this country over many, many years. And so I'd like to change that. I would like to declare those type of philanthropies treasonous. No philanthropy should be allowed to control public policy for their own private benefit. And I believe a lot of the, well, what happened with the government declaring what businesses are declared essential and non-essential, that was influenced by these private philanthropies, I can promise you. That is the most corrupt response. And you could see it's true because billionaires got richer and richer since COVID-19 happened, while the poor continue to get poorer and poorer. So something has got to be done to narrow that gap between the rich and the poor. And I'll get into that a little bit later. They also talked about the vaccine. Vaccine manufacturers in this country are exempt from the law if their vaccine harms or kills anybody. I would like to change that. It is crazy. Nobody should be exempt from the law. If your product kills people or harms people, you should be criminally liable. And that's not the kind of government or laws we have set up right now. I'd definitely like to change that. And I don't think anybody should be forced into getting a vaccine. That's consent. It's your body, your choice. What you put into your body is your choice, and you should never be pressured or forced to get a vaccine for you or your children. It's a very hard decision to make, and it's one that should be left up to parents and citizens to choose for themselves without pressure or coercion. Masks. I see it the same way as I see vaccines, really. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Unless you're in a private business. I guess private businesses should be allowed to say whether you wear a mask or not. It's hard to get the government to tell them that they can't do that. If they want to do that, they can do that. You should comply when you're going into confined areas and you're around a lot of people. It might be best to wear a mask. But nobody should be forced or criminalized for not wearing a mask, in my humble opinion. Next, they got into talking about the economy, how to fix the economy, and debt, and so on. Well, I'd like to end the Federal Reserve System outside of direct democracy. That's one thing I'm very eager to do. If we end the Federal Reserve System and have the U.S. Treasury take over their responsibilities, and if our government was in control of its own money supply, I believe we the people, and if we the people were also in control of the government, then we would have all the money in the world to finance projects for public good. And so the next step beyond that is if we transform the monetary system to no longer just serve the interest of private bankers, but to serve the interest of we the people, why not transform the money supply and the type, what we do to give out loans and so on? Why not transform it to give money to the American people rather than the private bankers? Let me back up. For example, another response to COVID-19 that I had a big issue with was that the Federal Reserve gave the big banks $1 trillion a day for 14 days straight, starting on March 20th of this last year. 14 days. So that's $14 trillion. About a week prior, they gave them $2.5 trillion. So just on what I've seen alone, the big banks got $16.5 trillion when we were all ordered, to stay home. And we're told to socially distance. I thought for sure whenever the big banks got bailed out again, like they did in 2008, where they received around $720 billion, that the next time something like that were to happen, there would be riots in the streets. Well, they found a way to make sure that that didn't happen. And that is crazy to me because big banks don't need that money. They create more money than the Federal Reserve does through fractional reserve banking. They're allowed to give out 10 times more money than they even have in deposits. They don't need that money. The American people need that money. So if we're just all going to be okay with money being given away, I'm saying why not give it to the American people to help them? And why not implement systems like Andrew Yang's policy on universal basic income or just basic income? My proposal would be to help those that are most disadvantaged in our society be allowed to sign up to receive between $1,000 and $4,000 a month. Why not? Why not? Why not help the poor? Why not create a system to help uplift people out of poverty? And the economy would boom. If you put money into the hands of poor people, we're going to put it right back into the economy. That's what's going to happen. The economy will boom. if people have more money, they're going to spend more money, and they have more money to buy things, and the economy will really take off. So I say the opposite of the trickle-down economics. Let it trickle up. Give the money to the poor first, and the rich might get richer through that too, but give it to the poor and let them disperse it how they so choose, rather than bailing out these rich corporations that really don't need that assistance. Next was income taxes. My proposal for income taxes is that nobody making under $1 million, but I'm flexible. It would be all through the ideas of direct democracy system too. If people want to negotiate me down to $500,000 or something, I'm willing to bend this proposal. But my initial proposal is that nobody making over or under $1 million should have to pay income taxes. At $1 million, I'm proposing that you're taxed 1%. And I want to see that incrementally increase as your income goes up and up. Until you're at $100 million, I'm suggesting you're taxed 50% at $100 million. And whatever you're making over $100 million, just a flat 50% tax. And then use that money to help fund universal basic income, or whatever projects we collectively want to fund for public good. I understand though that universal basic income could not be funded just by the rich. It would also have to be done by taking control over our money supply and have the U.S. Treasury in charge. If the U.S. Treasury was in charge of our money supply, they could just issue the money directly, debt-free, tax-free, without having to raise taxes. We could just fund whatever programs we wanted. Right now, we are indebted to the Federal Reserve around $20 trillion, I believe. I think last time I saw, we're paying over $300 billion to the Federal Reserve in interest payments every year. That is crazy, and that's got to end. If we end that, there's so much we could do to help uplift the American people. Next was jobs. Jobs is probably my most challenging topic to talk about. I need help with this one. If anybody has any suggestions, please throw them my way. Because the dilemma I'm seeing is that we all want corporations to pay their fair share of taxes, especially the biggest ones like Walmart and Google or, Amazon, whomever. They should have to pay their fair share of taxes, and they should also pay their workers a fair wage. But many corporations left the United States and sent their businesses overseas because they don't want to pay their fair share of taxes, and they don't want to pay their workers a fair wage. And so how do we deal with that? That's a very difficult one to deal with. How do we provide incentives to get those businesses to come back, but then also have them paying fair wages and paying their fair share of taxes? I don't know the answer to that. All I do know is that one thing the government can do to help give all these people out here that are becoming unemployed because of the government response to COVID and shutting down all these small businesses and many businesses not being able to bounce back because of that, well, the government can bring back the Works Projects Administration. Back in the 30s and 40s, there was a Public Works Administration that would hire these unemployed workers that were suffering through the Great Depression, give them jobs, and put them back to work. And there's many things we could do to put them back to work through the government assistance and paying them prevailing wage and so on, and doing so. And so the only way I could help think of where the government would be involved with providing jobs would be to have a Works Projects Administration come back. And so the next topic up was race relations. And why should voters trust you over any other candidate to handle race relations in the next administration? Was a question that was put up. Well, I can tell you, if my campaign could be summed up into one word, it would be equality. I believe in equality, and I believe that God created all of us equal, meaning that we are all 99.9% identical genetically. And until we can get to a place where we start to see each other as equals and are treated each other as equals under the law and other means in society, we're never going to get to a place where this civil unrest is going to go away. I'd like to see, although I do support law and order, and I know cops have a very difficult job to do out there, I would like to see them paid more also and receive better training to help deal with conflict resolution and so on. I don't think that they should be allowed to have a license to kill. Any cop that murders a civilian when they are unarmed in a conflict, I believe should be put up for trial and have a jury look over all the evidence of the interaction that went down and figure out whether or not it was legit murder or self-defense. It always should go to trial and there should be justice served. Nobody should be allowed to get away with murder. You shouldn't be qualified to be immune from the laws because your job gives you that ability. That's wrong. Murder is murder and people should be tried for it. And so if the American people are for that, I'd like to see that too. I would put that to direct democracy. If we want to end qualified immunity for cops in this country, let's put it on the table. And so, but we'll never get to put it on the table unless I'm president and you allow me to get in the system of technology for direct democracy. So why should voters vote for you over your opponent? Well, I really don't like to see any candidate be considered as my opponent, really. I'd like to bring in all candidates that are concerned about helping protect and serve the American people brought into the fold and be a part of my administration. But, the number one thing that sets me apart from any other candidate is I just don't hear any other candidate promoting technology for direct democracy. I don't hear any other candidate talking about empowering the American people in the political process. If you would like a say over the matters that govern you, come on down, I'm your guy. And so the next question was, what do you believe about the science of climate change? I believe it's real. I believe we are one people on this one planet, serving one God. And we have, some of you may not believe in God, but that's a great thing about this country, freedom of religion. But the planet is finite, and we only have one planet, and we have to protect this planet. Economics mean nothing if we don't have a planet to live on. CO2 levels are going sky high right now. I think it's around 400 parts per million right now. That's higher than it's ever been in human history. And so something needs to be done about that. The oceans are acidifying. Animals are going extinct more and more every day. Things need to be done to protect this planet. And so, yes, I believe in the science of climate change, and I'm all for doing all we can to turn things around. But it can't be done without the will of the people. I'm not going to be an authoritarian type of leader that comes in and demands that we, shut down coal-fired energy, we ban fracking, we ban mountaintop removal, ban pouring Corexit on oil spills, though I certainly would like to see all those things done personally. I'm not going to force feed it to the American public and create a bunch of civil unrest if the American people do not want those type of policies. But whenever one door closes, another one opens. So if we say ban fracking, and if jobs are lost in that process, I definitely would want to create a system where if those jobs were lost, those workers that lost jobs in those industries by banning those type of industries were given some kind of retirement package and or given jobs in a new redevelopment of that type of practice. So say if we ban fracking, the next thing is, we need to clean up fracking, what fracking has done to our waterways and so on, and to our landscape around this country. And so when we stop this, we got to go into fixing it, you know? And so jobs will be given on the back end of any ending of one type of toxic and destructive business practice. Jobs should be given to the same people if they want them to fix what damage was done while they were conducting those type of dangerous business practices. And if they don't want the jobs doing that, then offer them retirement packages so they don't have to go impoverished. And so, no, I don't think my climate proposals would tank the economy, because I'm all for helping people, helping provide for people, helping transform our monetary supply to protect, serve, and give people what they need to meet their basic needs, if need be, if people want to sign up for those type of programs. So how will you ensure that voters, how will you ensure that you will be the legitimate winner to voters? I don't know. I don't know how to tell you I'm going to be the legitimate winner. I don't know if all my votes are going to be counted. I don't know if it's going to be a crooked election. I don't know what is going to happen. I might have a better idea on that if I was already president, but you're going to have to put me in power to ensure the next election cycle will be more fair. There's so much that can be done to make this election system more fair. Right now, it is so difficult. I spent 6 months of my life going coast to coast to coast to get the signatures I needed in each state to be a qualified write-in candidate. It shouldn't have to be that difficult. There were a few states that gave me a really hard time and seemed to be deliberately wanting to disqualify me no matter what I said or did. It shouldn't be that difficult. And I'm just really tired of the bipartisan bickering. Any party system, like even to be on the ballot, I would have to win a party nomination. In Florida, for example, I would have to pay a $20,000 fee to be on the ballot. In Arizona, for example, I'd have to get around 40,000 signatures as an independent to be on the ballot. And so these kind of signature requirements and the fees that are associated with getting on the ballot are totally unfair. And the only way a person like me, a man of my means, who set out to run for president with $500 in his pocket to possibly make it to all these states, every state I possibly could, to be a write-in candidate. The only way I could have done it, well, I got to give some credit to God and the generosity of the American people, but the only way I could be an official presidential candidate is to be a write-in. And so there's really only around 10 of us left that have got over the 270 point electoral college point threshold to even have the possibility to be a potential winner in this election. And so us 10 that are left really should be the ones on the debate stage. We all should be having our voices heard at this point, but we're not. This two-party system is totally corrupt. Like, I found out through this whole process that the DNC and the RNC are private corporations and they have no obligation to follow their own rules or give voters a fair election. It's crazy. Through their superdelegates and so on, they have all these tricks that they can do to prop up whatever candidate they want. Primary process really is a joke. And so that is all wrong, you know. The American people should have more of a legitimate say in what candidates are part of what parties, although I don't really believe in party politics. I believe in having supreme loyalties with the American people, not party divisions setting policy. And so, you know, if you elect me, I'll do all I can to help transform our election systems to give us a fair election the next time around. And so will I support the outcome of the election? No, I won't. No, I'm going to have all of my electors go in and cause a revolution on December 14th next year. That's when the real election goes down, is the electors. The electors are the ones that decide the election. And whatever candidate is promoted to have won the election, I'm going to do all I can to have my electors, do the old Scooby-Doo disguise, like switch out clothes with them and go into the office and cast a vote for me instead or something. I don't know. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm not going to do that, though. It's not a bad idea. I don't promote cheating. But something has got to be done, and I don't know what else to do besides attempt to run for president of the United States and throw my hat in the ring and share my vision with the future for all of you to have any hope of transforming this country for the better. I'm here to try to be the change I want to see in the world, and hopefully all of you like some of the views I just shared with you. I'm not the greatest public speaker, but I can tell you my heart is in the right place. I care about you. I care about the American people, and I want to do all I can to help protect and serve the good people of this country. There's so many. In all my travels, I can tell you 95% of the people I met are just good-hearted, kind, compassionate, caring American citizens, and I believe in the American people. I really believe if we were given the opportunity to have a say over the matters that govern us, we would make much, much better decisions than what are currently being made by these corrupt politicians and these private philanthropies that are dictating public policy for their own personal interests. That has got to change. And if you want to see that change, right here, Kasey Wells. Write in Kasey Wells in 2020 and tell a friend to tell a friend about my campaign, because I can't do it without all of you. It only takes one person to tell one person a day for this to work. I've said it a couple times before, but this will be my final statement before I go. If one person told one person, and if it grew from 1 on the first day to 2 on the next day to 4 on the next day to 8 to 16, 32, and so on, every day, if my votes and followers doubled, it would only take 30 days to have enough votes to win this election. After 30 days, I would have over 100 million votes. So never underestimate the power of word of mouth, and never underestimate your power as an American citizen. I'm here to empower you. So if you want that power in the political process, write in Kasey Wells. Thank you all. If you made it this far, God bless you. Thank you for watching. Take care. Spread the word. I'm out.